She sat across from me in my office, hands shaking so badly she could barely hold the tissue I'd given her. Her eyes were red from crying. Her voice was barely a whisper. "He took everything," she said. $3 million. Gone. And I helped him do it. Let me back up and tell you how we got here. My name is Daniel. I'm a financial litigation attorney, which means I handle cases involving fraud, theft, and financial disputes. I've practiced law for 15 years, and I've seen every kind of scam imaginable. But the case of Lena Chen stands out. Not because it was the most legally complex, but because of how perfectly executed the betrayal was, and how close Lena came to losing everything. It started on a Tuesday morning when Lena walked into my office without an appointment. My receptionist called me and said there was a woman in the waiting room who was crying and said it was an emergency. I brought Lena into my office. She was 32 years old, petite, with long dark hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore jeans and a sweatshirt. Her hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Tell me what happened," I said, and she told me a story that made my blood boil. 3 weeks earlier, Lena had been working her regular shift as a nurse at a hospital in Orlando, Florida. She'd been a nurse for 8 years. Good job, steady income, but nothing extraordinary. On her way home that evening, she'd stopped at a gas station to fill up her car. On impulse, she bought a lottery ticket, $5. She played the same numbers she always played: her birthday, her mother's birthday, and a few random picks. She stuffed the ticket in her purse and forgot about it. 2 days later, she was watching TV when the lottery numbers came on the screen. She wasn't really paying attention. The numbers scrolled across the bottom of the screen, and then something made her look. Really look. Those were her numbers, all 6 of them. Lena grabbed her purse and dug out the ticket with trembling hands. She checked it once, twice, 3 times. It matched. Perfectly. She'd won the Florida Mega Millions jackpot, $3 million. Lena described that moment to me with tears streaming down her face. "I couldn't breathe," she said. "I started screaming. My boyfriend Victor came running from the bedroom asking what was wrong. I showed him the ticket. We both just stared at it. $3 million. I'd never seen that much money in my life." Victor Martinez. That's the name you need to remember, because Victor is the villain of this story. Lena and Victor had been together for 5 years. They weren't married, but they lived together in a small apartment. Victor worked in sales, or at least that's what he told people. His income was sporadic. Some months he made decent money. Other months, nothing. Lena had been the stable one. Her nursing salary paid most of their bills. Victor contributed when he could, but Lena never pushed him about it. She loved him. She thought they were building a life together. When Lena won the lottery, Victor's reaction was immediate and overwhelming. He was excited, supportive, full of plans for their future. "Baby, this is incredible," he said. "We need to be smart about this. We need to protect this money, make sure it lasts." Lena was overwhelmed. She'd never dealt with this kind of money before. She didn't know what to do. Victor said he did. "I have some experience with financial management," he told her. "Let me help you. We'll set everything up properly, make sure the money is invested wisely, plan for our future." Lena trusted him completely. Why wouldn't she? They'd been together for 5 years. He'd been there through hard times. He loved her. Or so she thought. The next day, Lena went to the lottery office to claim her prize. After taxes, she walked away with a check for approximately $3 million. $3 million that she'd earned through pure luck. $3 million that would be stolen from her within a week. Victor accompanied her to claim the prize. He held her hand through the whole process. He helped her fill out paperwork. He was attentive and supportive. On the drive home, Victor brought up the subject of how to handle the money. "Lena, we need to be careful. People change when they find out you have money. Family, friends, everyone will come asking for handouts. We need to protect this." "What should we do?" "Let's open a joint investment account. Put the money there. I'll help manage it. We'll invest it properly so it grows. This could set us up for life if we're smart about it. Lena hesitated. Shouldn't we talk to a financial advisor? Or a lawyer? Victor's expression changed slightly, just for a second. Then the smile returned. Baby, financial advisors charge huge fees. They'll take a percentage of everything. We don't need that. I know what I'm doing. Trust me. Haven't I always looked out for you? And Lena did trust him, so she agreed. They went to a bank the next day. Victor had already set up the appointment. He'd already researched which bank to use. He'd already prepared all the paperwork. Looking back, Lena realized how planned this all was. But in the moment, she just thought he was being helpful and thorough. They opened a joint investment account, both names on it. But Victor would handle all the transactions and management. He was the financial expert after all. Lena deposited the $3 million check into the account. Victor smiled and kissed her. This is the start of our new life together, baby. It was actually the beginning of the end. For the next few days, everything seemed normal. Victor was attentive and loving. He showed Lena charts and graphs about investment strategies. He talked about buying a house, about getting married, about having kids. Lena felt like the luckiest woman in the world. She had money. She had a man who loved her. She had a future. Then, 6 days after the money went into the account, Victor told Lena he had to go on a business trip. It's a big sales opportunity, he said. If this deal goes through, I'll finally be making real money. I'll be able to contribute equally to our finances. I won't be dependent on you anymore. Lena thought that was sweet. She didn't want Victor to feel like he wasn't contributing. Of course she supported his business trip. He left on a Monday morning. He kissed her goodbye. He said he loved her. He said he'd call her that night when he landed. He never called. Tuesday morning, Lena tried calling him. The call went straight to voicemail. She texted. No response. By Tuesday afternoon, she was worried. Had something happened? Was he okay? Then, at 3:47 p.m., she received a text message. Not from Victor's usual number, from an unknown number. The message said, "Thanks for the $3 million. Don't bother looking for me. This was always the plan. Sorry, not sorry." Lena stared at her phone, not understanding. Was this a joke? A scam? What was happening? She immediately called the bank. "I need to check my account balance," she said, her voice shaking. The representative put her on hold. When they came back on the line, their voice was carefully neutral. "Ma'am, I'm showing a balance of $0 in that account." "What? That's impossible. There should be $3 million. "Ma'am, there was a large withdrawal 2 days ago. The entire amount was transferred to another account, and that account was then closed." "Who authorized that?" "According to our records, Victor Martinez. He's an authorized user on the account." Lena felt the world spinning. She couldn't breathe. This couldn't be happening. She logged into the account online with the credentials Victor had set up for her. He'd been so helpful in setting everything up, so thorough, too thorough. The account history showed a transfer of $3 million 2 days earlier. The same day, Victor said he was leaving for his business trip. The money had been moved to an account in Nevada. That account had then been closed, and the money withdrawn in cashier's checks. Victor had planned this perfectly. He'd waited until the money cleared, until it was firmly in the account. Then he'd transferred everything out, closed the receiving account, and disappeared. And because it was a joint account, and he was an authorized user, the bank had processed the transfer without question. Lena collapsed. She called in sick to work. She spent 2 days in bed, crying, unable to process what had happened. The man she loved, the man she'd trusted, the man she'd been with for 5 years. He'd stolen everything from her and disappeared. She'd gone from having $3 million to having nothing in less than a week. But it was worse than nothing, because Lena had quit her job. The day after she claimed the lottery prize, she'd given notice at the hospital. She was rich now. She didn't need to work anymore. Except she wasn't rich. She was broke and unemployed. On the third day after receiving that text message, Lena's sister came over and found her still in bed, still in the same clothes, not eating, not functioning. "You need a lawyer," her sister said. "Now." That's how Lena ended up in my office. She told me the whole story, every detail. The lottery win, the joint account, Victor's disappearance, the devastating text message. When she finished, she looked at me with empty eyes. "There's nothing you can do, is there? It was a joint account. He had every right to take the money. I was an idiot. I lost everything." I looked at this woman who'd been so completely betrayed by someone she loved, and I felt anger rising in my chest. "Lena, did you sign any paperwork when you opened that account, besides the standard bank forms?" "I don't know. Victor handled everything. He had me sign a bunch of papers. I didn't read them carefully. He said they were just standard investment forms. You have copies?" "No, Victor kept all that." I made some notes. "Okay, let me ask you something else. Did Victor ever tell you the money was a gift? Did he ever have you sign anything saying you were giving him the money?" "No, he said we were investing it together, for our future, our joint future." That word, joint. It was going to be important. "Lena, I need you to think carefully. Do you have any text messages, emails, or other communications with Victor about the money? Anything that shows what he promised you?" She pulled out her phone. "I have text messages, a lot of them, about investment plans and our future." "Can you forward all of those to me?" "Yes." "Good. Here's what I think happened. And here's why you're not as helpless as you think you are." I pulled out a legal pad and started drawing. Victor didn't just steal from you. He committed fraud. Fraud requires intent to deceive. If he told you this was a joint investment for your shared future, but he was actually planning to steal everything, that's textbook fraud. But he was on the account legally. Yes, but the question is why he was on the account. If you added him to the account because he promised to invest the money for both of you, and instead he stole it for himself, that's fraudulent misrepresentation. He induced you to give him access to your money through false promises. I could see hope beginning to flicker in Lena's eyes. The problem is proving intent. We need to show that from the beginning, Victor planned to steal your money. That this was a premeditated scam, not just a relationship gone wrong. How do we prove that? We investigate. We trace the money. We look at Victor's history, and we file a lawsuit immediately to freeze whatever assets we can find. I don't have money for a lawyer. He took everything. I'll take this case on contingency. That means I only get paid if we recover money for you. If we win, I take a percentage. If we lose, you owe me nothing." "Why would you do that?" I looked at her directly. "Because what happened to you is wrong. Because Victor is a predator who planned this crime carefully. And because I believe we can win." That was 3 weeks ago. In those 3 weeks, I'd been working around the clock on Lena's case, and I'd discovered something Victor didn't know I'd find. He wasn't as smart as he thought he was, and he'd made mistakes. Fatal mistakes. Tomorrow, we were going to court, and Victor Martinez was about to learn that stealing $3 million has consequences. But first, I needed to build our case. Because Victor had hired a lawyer too, a good one, and they were going to fight back hard. This was going to be a battle over $3 million. A battle between a nurse who'd been betrayed and a con man who thought he'd gotten away with it. I'd handled a lot of cases in my career, but this one felt personal. Maybe because Lena reminded me of my own sister. Maybe because the betrayal was so calculated and cruel. Or maybe just because I really hate con artists. Whatever the reason, I was going to fight for Lena with everything I had, and I was going to make Victor Martinez regret ever meeting her. The case of Lena Chen versus Victor Martinez was about to begin, and it was going to get very interesting. The morning after Lena first came to my office, I started my investigation. I've learned over 15 years of practice that the first 72 hours of a case are crucial. That's when you gather evidence, file emergency motions, and try to freeze assets before they disappear completely. Victor had a 6-day head start, but he'd left a trail. He had to. You can't move $3 million without leaving evidence. My first call was to a private investigator I'd worked with before. His name was Marcus, ex-FBI, brilliant at finding people who didn't want to be found. Marcus, I need you to locate someone. Victor Martinez. Last known address in Orlando. He stole $3 million from his girlfriend and disappeared about a week ago. Any idea where he went? The money trail goes to Nevada, but I don't know if he's actually there or if that's just a way station. Give me 24 hours. My second call was to the bank where the joint account had been opened. I needed detailed records of every transaction, every access, every piece of paperwork filed. The bank's legal department was cooperative once I explained we were investigating fraud. They couldn't give me everything without a subpoena, but they gave me enough to start building the case. The account had been opened on a Wednesday. The $3 million had been deposited on Thursday. The following Tuesday, Victor had initiated a wire transfer of the entire amount to an account at a bank in Las Vegas. That same day, he'd boarded a flight to Las Vegas. I knew this because I ran his name through databases I have access to. His credit card showed a plane ticket purchase. Victor had been careful, but not careful enough. He'd used his real name for the flight. He'd used his credit card. These were mistakes. In Las Vegas, the receiving account had been opened just 1 week before Lena won the lottery. Victor had planned this before she even had the winning ticket. That detail was crucial. It showed premeditation. This wasn't a crime of opportunity, this was a long con. The Las Vegas account had received the $3 million on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the money had been withdrawn in cashier's checks. Then the account was closed. Cashier's checks. That meant physical checks that Victor could deposit elsewhere or use to make purchases. Harder to trace than electronic transfers, but not impossible. I filed an emergency motion with the court that same day. I requested an immediate freeze on all assets belonging to Victor Martinez, pending a hearing on fraud allegations. I attached Lena's declaration, detailing what had happened. I attached the bank records showing the transfers. I attached screenshots of text messages between Lena and Victor, where he promised to invest our money for our future together. The judge granted a temporary restraining order. Any bank accounts, properties, or assets in Victor's name were now frozen. He couldn't touch anything without violating a court order. Of course, that only helped if we could find his assets. That's where Marcus came in. Marcus called me back 18 hours later. Found him, or at least found where he was 3 days ago. Where? He bought a house, cash purchase, $2.1 million. Property in Henderson, Nevada, just outside Las Vegas. Title is in his name. I felt satisfaction wash over me. Victor had been so focused on getting the money out of Florida, he'd made a classic mistake. He'd purchased visible, traceable property in his own name. What else? He also bought a Ferrari, $600,000. Again, title in his name. He's been posting photos on Instagram under a private account, but I found it. Pictures of the house, the car, living the high life. Instagram. He's posting evidence of his theft on social media. Criminals aren't always smart. They get arrogant. Can you send me screenshots of everything? Already in your email. I opened my email and found dozens of screenshots. Photos of Victor standing next to a bright red Ferrari. Photos of a sprawling modern house with a pool. Photos of expensive watches and bottles of champagne. All posted within the last week. All purchased with Lena's lottery winnings. This was beautiful evidence. This was going to destroy him in court. But I needed more. I needed to prove this was fraud from the beginning, not just theft after the fact. I spent the next week digging into Victor's background. What I found was disturbing. Victor Martinez had done this before. 5 years ago, in California, a woman named Sandra Ruiz had filed a police report. She'd been dating Victor for 2 years. She'd received a small inheritance from her grandmother, $50,000. Victor had convinced her to invest it in his business venture. The money disappeared. So did Victor. Sandra tried to pursue legal action but couldn't afford an attorney. The case went nowhere. 3 years ago, in Arizona, another woman, similar story, dating Victor, came into some money. Money disappeared. Victor disappeared. No criminal charges were ever filed because in both cases, the women had voluntarily given him access to their money. And without money for attorneys, they couldn't pursue civil action. But Lena's case was different. Lena had $3 million at stake, and she had me. I filed an amended complaint adding these prior incidents as evidence of a pattern of behavior. This wasn't a one-time lapse in judgment. This was Victor's business model. He targeted women with money, gained their trust, and robbed them. He was a professional con artist. The hearing on our emergency motion was scheduled for 2 weeks after Lena first walked into my office. By that time, Marcus had located Victor's current address in Henderson. We'd served him with legal papers, and he'd hired an attorney. A good attorney. Expensive. Probably paid for with Lena's money. The attorney's name was Robert Cardenas. I'd faced him before. He was smart and aggressive. Cardenas filed a response to our motion. His argument was simple. This was a gift. Lena and Victor were in a romantic relationship. She voluntarily deposited money into a joint account. She gave him access. She made him an authorized user. Under Nevada law, joint account holders have equal rights to the funds. It was a decent argument. If we couldn't prove fraud, it might even work. But Cardenas made a mistake. He included an exhibit with his filing, a document purportedly signed by Lena. The document was labeled Gift Affidavit. It stated that Lena was voluntarily gifting the $3 million to Victor as a token of her love and appreciation. It was dated 2 days after the account was opened. When I showed this document to Lena, she went pale. I never signed this. I've never seen this before. Look carefully. Is that your signature? She examined it closely. It looks like my signature, but I didn't sign this. I swear I didn't. Think back. Did Victor have you sign a bunch of papers when you opened the account? Yes. There was a stack of forms. He said they were all bank paperwork and investment documents. I was so overwhelmed, I just signed where he told me to sign. Did you read what you were signing? She looked ashamed. No. I trusted him. He said it was just standard stuff. This was it. This was the fraud. Victor had hidden the gift affidavit in a stack of legitimate paperwork. He'd had Lena sign it without explaining what it was. That's fraud. That's fraudulent misrepresentation. I immediately filed a supplemental brief arguing that the gift affidavit was invalid because it was procured through fraud and deception. But I needed more than just Lena's word that she didn't know what she was signing. I needed corroborating evidence. I went back through the text messages between Lena and Victor. I found gold. 2 days before Victor left, he sent Lena a text. Can't wait to see how our investments grow. In 10 years, we'll have built something amazing together with your winnings. Our investments. Together. If this was truly a gift as the affidavit claimed, why was Victor referring to it as our investments and we'll have built something together? I found another text from 3 days before he disappeared. Been looking at investment properties. Found a great one in Nevada. Might be worth putting some of our money there. What do you think? Our money. He was asking her opinion. This wasn't the language of someone who'd received a $3 million gift. I compiled every text message, every email, every communication that showed Victor repeatedly promised this was joint money for their joint future. The contrast with the gift affidavit was stark. The affidavit said she'd given him everything. The messages showed he'd promised it was theirs together. That's fraud. The day before the hearing, Cardenas tried one more tactic. He filed a motion to dismiss based on jurisdiction. He argued that since the account was in Nevada and Victor was in Nevada, Florida courts had no jurisdiction. It was a desperate move. The fraud occurred in Florida. Lena was a Florida resident. The lottery ticket was purchased in Florida. We clearly had jurisdiction. But it showed me that Cardenas knew his case was weak. The hearing was on a Friday morning. Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. I'd appeared before her many times. She was brilliant, thorough, and hated con artists. Lena and I arrived early. She was nervous, wearing a conservative dress, her hair pulled back. She looked young and vulnerable, which, unfortunately, she was. Victor arrived with Cardenas. He wore an expensive suit. His hair was styled perfectly. He looked confident, arrogant even. When he saw Lena, he smiled. Actually smiled. Like this was all a game. I felt rage building but kept my face neutral. Judge Morrison called the case. This is an emergency motion to freeze assets in a case alleging fraud. Mr. Cardenas, you're representing the defendant, Victor Martinez? Yes, Your Honor. And Mr. Daniel Lee, you're representing the plaintiff, Lena Chen? Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Lee, this is your motion. Present your argument. I stood up. Your Honor, this case involves a calculated, premeditated fraud. Ms. Chen won $3 million in the lottery. Her boyfriend of 5 years, Mr. Martinez, convinced her to deposit the money in a joint account he controlled. He promised to invest the money for their shared future. Instead, he stole everything and disappeared. I pulled up the text messages on the courtroom screen. These messages show Mr. Martinez repeatedly referring to the money as ours, promising to invest our money for our future. These are not the words of someone who'd received a gift. I brought up Victor's Instagram photos. Within days of stealing Ms. Chen's money, Mr. Martinez bought a $2.1 million house and a $600,000 car. He's been posting photos of his lavish lifestyle on social media, money that rightfully belongs to Ms. Chen. Judge Morrison studied the images. And the gift affidavit, Mr. Lee? Mr. Cardenas has submitted an affidavit signed by your client allegedly gifting the money to Mr. Martinez. Your Honor, that document is fraudulent. Mr. Martinez hid it in a stack of legitimate bank forms. He had Ms. Chen sign it without explaining what it was. That's textbook fraudulent inducement. Can you prove that? The text messages prove it, Your Honor. If Ms. Chen had actually given Mr. Martinez $3 million as a gift, why would he be texting her 2 days later saying, "Our investments," and "What do you think about properties in Nevada?" He was maintaining the fiction that this was joint money until he was ready to steal it. Judge Morrison looked at Cardenas. Mr. Cardenas, your response? Cardenas stood up, smooth and confident. Your Honor, the evidence is clear. Ms. Chen voluntarily deposited money into a joint account. She signed a gift affidavit. Under Nevada law, Mr. Martinez had every right to that money. What about the text messages showing he promised to invest the money for their joint future? People say things in relationships, Your Honor. The legal document, the affidavit, is what matters.
and that affidavit clearly states this was a gift. Except, I interrupted, that affidavit was procured through fraud. Ms. Chen never understood she was signing a gift document. Mr. Martinez deliberately deceived her. Judge Morrison held up her hand. I'm also troubled by something else, Mr. Cardenas. I've reviewed the supplemental brief about Mr. Martinez's prior conduct. 2 other women, similar situations. Dating your client, coming into money. Money disappears. Your client disappears. That's a pattern. Cardenas looked uncomfortable for the first time. Those were completely different situations, Your Honor. Were they? They look remarkably similar to me. Your client appears to have a business model of targeting women with money. She looked at Victor directly. Mr. Martinez, I'm granting the plaintiff's motion. Your assets are frozen. The house in Henderson, the Ferrari, any bank accounts, all of it. Frozen pending trial. You are also ordered to appear for a deposition within 30 days. If you flee the jurisdiction, I'll issue a warrant for your arrest. Victor's confident expression cracked, just for a moment. Then he recovered. Your Honor, that's not fair. That money was given to me. Then you'll have the opportunity to prove that at trial. Motion granted. She banged her gavel. Outside the courtroom, Lena actually hugged me. She was crying, but this time they were tears of relief. Does this mean I'll get my money back? It means we've frozen what's left of it. Now we need to actually win the case. That'll take time. But yes, I think we're going to win. Over the next 3 months, we prepared for trial. I deposed Victor. He was arrogant and evasive, which actually helped our case. He claimed the money was a gift, but couldn't explain the text messages. He claimed Lena knew what she was signing, but couldn't produce any evidence he'd explain the documents to her. I also tracked down the 2 other women Victor had scammed, Sandra from California and Maria from Arizona. They agreed to testify about his pattern of behavior. Cardenas tried to exclude their testimony, arguing it was prejudicial. But Judge Morrison allowed it as evidence of modus operandi. We were building an overwhelming case. Proof of fraud, proof of a pattern, proof that Victor was a professional con artist. But the most damaging evidence came from an unexpected source. Victor's own lawyer. 3 months after we froze Victor's assets, we finally went to trial. In those 3 months, I'd built what I believed was an airtight case. But trials are unpredictable. Juries are unpredictable. And Victor's attorney, Robert Cardenas, was good at his job. The trial was held in Orange County Circuit Court in Orlando, Judge Patricia Morrison presiding. We'd requested a jury trial because I believed a jury would be sympathetic to Lena's story, a nurse who won the lottery and got scammed by her boyfriend of 5 years. That's a compelling narrative. Jury selection took 2 days. We ended up with 7 women and 5 men, ranging in age from 28 to 67. A good mix. Several of them had played the lottery before. 2 of them were nurses. I felt confident about this jury. Opening statements began on a Monday morning. I stood up and walked to the jury box. I made eye contact with each juror. $3 million. That's what Lena Chen won when she bought a $5 lottery ticket at a gas station on her way home from work. Lena is a nurse. She'd been working at Orlando Regional Medical Center for 8 years. She was good at her job. She saved lives. She helped people. And one day, through pure luck, she won $3 million. I paused. 7 days later, all of that money was gone. Stolen by the man she loved, the man she trusted, the man sitting right there. I pointed at Victor. He stared back at me with no expression. Victor Martinez didn't love Lena. He loved her money, and he'd been planning to steal it from the moment she told him about the winning ticket. This wasn't a relationship gone wrong. This wasn't a misunderstanding about shared assets. This was a calculated, premeditated fraud. I walked back toward Lena, who was sitting at our table looking small and nervous. Over the next few days, you're going to hear evidence, text messages where Victor promised to invest our money for our future together. Testimony from 2 other women Victor scams the exact same way. Bank records showing how Victor moved the money to Nevada and spent it on a house and a Ferrari within days. And most importantly, you're going to learn about a document called a gift affidavit that Victor hid in a stack of papers and tricked Lena into signing. I looked at the jury again. Victor Martinez is a con artist. This is what he does. He finds women who have money. He gains their trust. He convinces them to give him access to their assets. And then he disappears with everything. Lena is his 3rd victim. Don't let him get away with it again. I sat down. Cardenas stood up for his opening. He was wearing an impeccable gray suit. He smiled at the jury like they were old friends. Ladies and gentlemen, relationships are complicated. We've all been in relationships where things didn't work out the way we hoped. Sometimes people grow apart. Sometimes feelings change. Sometimes money becomes an issue. He walked casually around the courtroom. Lena Chen and Victor Martinez were in a relationship for 5 years. They lived together. They shared a life. When Lena won the lottery, she was generous. She wanted to share her good fortune with the man she loved. She voluntarily, of her own free will, deposited $3 million into a joint account. She gave Victor access. She signed a legal document stating the money was a gift. He pulled out a copy of the gift affidavit and held it up. This is her signature. She signed this document. Not in secret, not under duress. She signed it because that's what she wanted to do. She was in love. She wanted to be generous. Cardenas shrugged. Did the relationship end badly? Yes. Did Victor leave abruptly? Yes. But ending a relationship is not a crime. Accepting a gift from a girlfriend is not fraud. The plaintiff is simply experiencing buyer's remorse. She gave away $3 million in the excitement of new wealth, and now she regrets it. But regret doesn't equal fraud. He sat down looking confident. I called my first witness. Lena took the stand. She was nervous, but she told her story clearly. The lottery win. Victor's promises to invest the money for their shared future. The joint account. The stack of papers he had her sign. His sudden disappearance with all the money. Miss Chen, I asked, when you signed the documents at the bank, did Victor explain what each one was? No. He said they were just standard bank forms and investment documents. I trusted him. I didn't read them carefully. Did he ever use the word gift when discussing the $3 million? Never. He always said our money and our investment. He said we were building our future together. When you opened that joint account, what did you believe was happening? I believed we were putting the money somewhere safe so Victor could help me invest it. For both of us, for our future as a couple. Did you intend to give Victor $3 million as a personal gift? Absolutely not. If I'd known that's what was happening, I never would have signed anything. Cardenas cross-examined her aggressively. Miss Chen, you and Mr. Martinez lived together for 5 years, correct? Yes. You shared bills, rent, expenses? Yes. Mostly I paid because Victor's income was irregular. So you supported him financially throughout the relationship. I wouldn't say supported. I just paid more of the bills. And when you won $3 million, you wanted to continue sharing your money with him, correct? I wanted us to invest it together for our future. But you did put his name on the account because he said he would help manage it. You gave him full access to the money for investment purposes. But you gave him access, yes or no? Yes, but thank you. And this document with your signature on it. He held up the gift affidavit. This is your signature? Lena looked at it closely. It looks like my signature, but I don't remember signing this specific document. You don't remember, or you didn't sign it? I signed whatever Victor put in front of me because I trusted him. I didn't know this was a gift document. He never explained it. But you did sign it. I signed something, but I didn't know what it was. So you signed legal documents without reading them? He said they were just routine bank forms. Did anyone force you to sign without reading? No, but Victor deliberately didn't tell me what I was signing. That's speculation, Miss Chen. The fact is you signed this document. No one held a gun to your head. You signed it freely. He was good. He was making Lena look careless and naive, but I knew I could repair this on redirect. After Cardenas sat down, I stood back up. Ms. Chen, when you signed that stack of papers, did you trust Victor? Completely. Why did you trust him? Because we'd been together for 5 years. Because he'd never given me a reason not to trust him. Because he said he loved me and wanted to build a life with me. If Victor had pulled out that gift affidavit and said, Lena, I want you to sign this document giving me $3 million as a personal gift, would you have signed it? Never. Absolutely not. Why not? Because that money was supposed to be for both of us, for our future together. I didn't win the lottery to just give Victor millions of dollars. I won it to build a better life for us as a couple. Thank you. No further questions. My next witness was Sandra Ruiz, the woman from California who Victor had scammed 5 years earlier. Sandra was in her 40s, a school teacher. She testified about meeting Victor, dating him for 2 years, receiving an inheritance, and Victor convincing her to invest it with him. He said he had business connections, Sandra testified. He said he could double my money within a year. I gave him $50,000. He disappeared 2 days later. I never saw him or the money again. Cardenas objected repeatedly, arguing this was prejudicial and irrelevant, but Judge Morrison allowed it as evidence of pattern and modus operandi. Maria Garcia, the woman from Arizona, told a nearly identical story. Dating Victor, coming into some money, Victor promising to invest it, Victor disappearing with everything. The pattern was clear. Victor was a professional con artist who targeted women with money. Then I called my surprise witness, someone even I hadn't expected to find. Her name was Jennifer Caldwell. She was 62 years old, a retired real estate agent from Texas. My investigator, Marcus, had found her while digging into Victor's background. Jennifer had dated Victor 7 years ago. She'd received a settlement from a car accident, $200,000. Victor had convinced her to give him the money to invest in a real estate development. The money vanished. So did Victor. Jennifer had been too embarrassed to report it. She blamed herself for being foolish. But when Marcus contacted her and told her about Lena's case, she agreed to testify. I thought I was special, Jennifer said from the witness stand, tears in her eyes. I thought Victor loved me. I thought we had something real. But I was just a mark, just another victim. By the time Jennifer finished testifying, several jurors were visibly angry. They were seeing Victor for what he was, a predator. Cardenas tried to discredit the prior victims on cross-examination. He argued their cases were different, that those were explicit investments that failed, not gifts. But the pattern was too clear to ignore. After 3 days of testimony from my witnesses, it was Cardenas's turn to present his defense. He called Victor to the stand. Victor wore a conservative suit. He'd toned down his appearance, no more flashy watches or designer clothes. He looked humble, repentant even. It was a performance. Cardenas led him through his testimony carefully. Mr. Martinez, how long were you and Miss Chen together? 5 years. 5 wonderful years. Did you love her? Very much. I still care about her. When she won the lottery, how did you feel? I was happy for her, excited. I wanted to help her manage the money properly. Why did you suggest a joint account? Because we were a couple. We shared everything. It seemed natural to have our money in a joint account. And this gift affidavit, did you trick Miss Chen into signing it? No. I explained every document to her. I told her this document was confirming that she was putting the money into our joint account as a shared asset. She understood. She agreed. It was a bold lie, but it was his testimony. Why did you leave so suddenly? Victor looked down, as if ashamed. I made a mistake. I panicked. The pressure of managing that much money, the responsibility, it overwhelmed me. I needed space. I handled it badly. I should have talked to Lena first, but I didn't steal from her. The money was ours, jointly. Why did you buy a house and a car? Because I thought I was starting over, building a new life. I wasn't thinking clearly. Do you have any regrets? Many. I regret hurting Lena. I regret how things ended. But I didn't commit fraud. I loved her. Everything I did was within my legal rights as a joint account holder. Cardenas sat down, looking satisfied. Now it was my turn to cross-examine Victor. I'd been looking forward to this. I stood up slowly. I picked up the text messages and walked toward the witness stand. Mr. Martinez, let me read you a text message you sent to Miss Chen 3 days before you disappeared. You wrote, "Can't wait to see how our investments grow. In 10 years, we'll have built something amazing together with your winnings." Do you remember sending that? Yes. You said, "our investments," and "we'll have built something together." If Lena had given you $3 million as a personal gift, why would you be talking about our investments? Because we were partners. We were building a life together. Except you weren't building a life together. You were planning to steal her money and disappear. Isn't that true? No, I wasn't planning that. Really? Let's talk about timing. The account in Nevada where you transferred the money. When was that account opened? Victor hesitated. I don't remember exactly. Let me refresh your memory. It was opened 1 week before Lena even bought the winning lottery ticket. How do you explain that? The courtroom went silent. This was the evidence I'd been saving. Victor's face went pale. That must be a mistake. It's not a mistake. I have the bank records right here. You opened an account in Nevada 1 week before Lena won the lottery. Why would you do that unless you were already planning to steal money from someone? I was just exploring investment options. In Nevada? When you lived in Florida? Without telling your girlfriend? Victor had no good answer. And these other women, Sandra Ruiz, Maria Garcia, Jennifer Caldwell, you scammed all of them the exact same way. Same pattern, same promises, same disappearing act. That's quite a coincidence, isn't it? Those were completely different situations. Were they? Because they look identical to me. You target women who come into money. You gain their trust. You convince them to give you access to their assets. Then you steal everything and disappear. That's your business model, isn't it? No. You're a professional con artist, Mr. Martinez. Lena is just your latest victim. That's not true. Then explain this. I pulled up Victor's Instagram posts on the courtroom screen. Photos of you with a Ferrari, with a mansion, with bottles of champagne that cost more than most people make in a month. All posted days after you stole Lena's money. You were celebrating, weren't you? Celebrating your successful con. Victor looked at the jury. Several of them were glaring at him. I made some poor choices in how I spent the money. It wasn't your money to spend, it was Lena's. Money you stole through lies and fraud. I didn't steal anything. It was a joint account. A joint account you convinced her to open by promising to invest our money for our future. Lies. All lies. I walked back to my table. No further questions. I think the jury has seen enough. Cardenas tried to rehabilitate Victor on redirect, but the damage was done. Victor had been exposed as a liar and a con artist. The evidence about the Nevada account opened before Lena won the lottery was devastating. It showed premeditation. It showed Victor had been planning to scam someone even before Lena won. Closing arguments were the next day. I stood before the jury one final time. Ladies and gentlemen, you've heard all the evidence. You've seen the text messages where Victor promised our investments and our future together. You've heard testimony from 3 other women Victor scammed exactly the same way. You've seen bank records showing Victor opened an account in Nevada before Lena even won the lottery. I paused. This was planned. This was premeditated. This was fraud. I walked closer to the jury box. Victor Martinez is a con artist. This is what he does for a living. He finds vulnerable women with money. He makes them fall in love with him. He gains their trust. And then he steals everything. I pointed at Lena. Lena Chen worked hard her entire adult life as a nurse. She saved people's lives. She helped people. And when she got lucky and won the lottery, she wanted to share that good fortune with the man she loved. She trusted him. And he betrayed that trust in the most calculated, cruel way possible. I looked at each juror. Don't let him get away with it. Don't let him keep Lena's money. Don't reward his fraud. Fine for the plaintiff. Make Victor Martinez return every penny he stole. And send a message that this kind of predatory behavior will not be tolerated. I sat down. Cardenas gave his closing argument. He argued this was a civil dispute between former romantic partners. He argued Lena had voluntarily given Victor access to her money. He argued the gift affidavit was legally binding. But I could see from the jury's faces that they weren't buying it. They'd seen through Victor. They knew what he was. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. When they came back, the 4 women stood up. We find in favor of the plaintiff, Lena Chen. We find that Victor Martinez committed fraud and must return $3 million plus interest and attorney's fees. Lena burst into tears. I put my arm around her shoulders. Victor sat motionless, his face blank. Judge Morrison addressed him directly. Mr. Martinez, I'm ordering you to return all of Ms. Chen's money within 30 days. The house in Nevada will be sold. The Ferrari will be sold. All proceeds will go to Ms. Chen. Additionally, you'll pay her attorney's fees and court costs. She paused. And I'm referring this case to the state attorney's office for investigation of criminal fraud charges. What you did was not just a civil wrong. It was criminal. And you should face criminal consequences. She banged her gavel. Outside the courtroom, Lena hugged me tightly. Thank you. Thank you so much. I never thought I'd see that money again. You fought for it. You didn't give up. You should be proud. What happens now? Now we collect. We'll sell the house and the car. We'll recover as much as possible. You won't get everything back, but you'll get most of it. And Victor? Victor is going to face criminal charges. He's looking at serious prison time for fraud. 3 weeks later, the state attorney filed criminal charges against Victor. Multiple counts of fraud, theft, and organized scheme to defraud. The trial happened 6 months later. Victor was convicted on all counts. He was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Justice was served. 6 months after the civil trial ended, I sat in my office reviewing the final accounting on Lena's case. We'd sold the house in Nevada. We'd sold the Ferrari. We'd tracked down other assets Victor had purchased with the stolen money. In total, we'd recovered $2.7 million of the original $3 million. The missing $300,000 had been spent on various purchases that couldn't be recovered. Expensive dinners, gambling losses in Vegas, designer clothes. But $2.7 million was a significant victory. After attorney's fees and court costs, Lena would walk away with approximately $2.4 million. Not the full amount, but enough to rebuild her life. Lena came to my office to sign the final paperwork. She looked different than she had that first day. Healthier, stronger. Her eyes had light in them again. "I still can't believe we won," she said. "There were so many times I thought it was hopeless." "You never gave up. That's why we won." "No, we won because you believed me when I had nothing. When I walked into your office broke and desperate, you took my case. Why?" I thought about this. Because what happened to you was wrong. Because Victor is a predator who needed to be stopped. And because I believed we could win. She signed the final documents, and I handed her a check for $2.4 million. She stared at it for a long time. "This is real?" "It's real. You won. You got your money back." She started crying. "I got my second job back at the hospital. I've been working for the past 8 months. I got my apartment back. I rebuilt my life from nothing. I didn't think I'd ever see this money again." "What are you going to do with it?" She smiled. "First, I'm going to hire a real financial advisor. Someone licensed and reputable. Someone who's not my boyfriend." I laughed. "Good plan." "Then I'm going to invest most of it conservatively. Index funds, bonds. Boring stuff that grows slowly but safely. I'm going to keep working as a nurse because I love my job. And I'm going to use some of the money to help other people. Help them how? I want to donate to organizations that help fraud victims. People who've been scammed and don't have resources to fight back. If I'd had to pay for an attorney up front, I never would have gotten my money back. I want to help people like me." I felt proud of her. She'd been through hell and come out the other side not bitter, but generous. That's a beautiful way to use your good fortune. It's not good fortune, it's justice. You gave me justice. After Lena left, I sat in my office thinking about the case, about how close she'd come to losing everything, about how Victor had almost gotten away with it. The criminal trial for Victor had happened 2 months earlier. I'd attended even though I wasn't involved in the prosecution. I wanted to see it through. The prosecutor had built a strong case. They'd included not just Lena's case, but also the prior victims. Sandra from California, Maria from Arizona, Jennifer from Texas. All told, Victor had stolen nearly $4 million from 4 different women over 7 years. He'd been charged with organized fraud, grand theft, and racketeering. The prosecution argued he was running a criminal enterprise specifically targeting vulnerable women. The evidence was overwhelming. Text messages, bank records, testimony from multiple victims. The jury convicted him on all counts. At sentencing, the judge had been harsh. "Mr. Martinez, you are a predator. You systematically target women, gain their trust, and rob them. You've destroyed lives. You've betrayed trust in the most fundamental way. You deserve no mercy from this court." He'd been sentenced to 12 years in prison. With good behavior, he'd serve at least 8. All 4 victims had been in the courtroom for the sentencing: Lena, Sandra, Maria, and Jennifer. They'd all written victim impact statements. Lena's statement had been powerful. "Victor Martinez didn't just steal my money. He stole my ability to trust. He stole my sense of security. He made me question my own judgment. For months after he left, I blamed myself. I thought I was stupid for trusting him. I thought I deserved what happened. She'd looked directly at Victor. But I didn't deserve it. None of us did. We were kind, trusting women who loved someone we thought loved us back. We're not stupid. We're not gullible. We were betrayed by someone who deliberately manipulated us. Lena had paused, her voice strong and clear. I'm grateful that justice was served, not just for me, but for Sandra and Maria and Jennifer, and probably other women we don't even know about. Victor can't hurt anyone else now, and that matters more than the money. After the sentencing, the four women had gone out for dinner together. They'd formed a bond through their shared experience. They'd created a support group for fraud victims. Lena had called me a few weeks later to tell me about it. We're calling it the Survivors Network, she said. We meet once a month. We help other women who've been scammed. We share resources. We talk about healing and recovery. We're turning our worst experience into something positive. That's incredible, Lena. You inspired me. The way you fought for me. The way you didn't give up. You showed me that victims don't have to stay victims. We can fight back. We can win. Now, sitting in my office months later, I thought about all the lessons this case had taught me. First, always trust your instincts. When Lena first told me her story, everything about it screamed fraud. The timing, the joint account, the sudden disappearance. Trust those instincts. Second, document everything. The text messages between Lena and Victor were crucial evidence. They showed his promises about our money and our future. Without them, the case would have been much harder to prove. Third, investigate thoroughly. Finding Victor's prior victims was a game changer. It established a pattern. It showed this wasn't just a relationship gone wrong, but a deliberate, repeated scheme. Fourth, sometimes you have to take cases on contingency. Lena couldn't afford to pay me up front. If I'd required a retainer, she never would have gotten justice. Sometimes doing the right thing means taking financial risk. And finally, justice matters. Not just the money, though that's important, but holding predators accountable, stopping them from hurting others, giving victims validation that what happened to them was wrong. I thought about Victor in prison. 12 years. He'd be nearly 60 when he got out. His con artist career was over. Good. I thought about the other women he'd scammed. How many more were out there who hadn't come forward? Who were too ashamed or too scared or too broke to pursue justice? That bothered me. It still bothers me. Financial fraud against intimate partners is more common than people realize. It happens in marriages, long-term relationships, and dating situations. One partner controls the money, manipulates finances, and leaves the other person broke and vulnerable. And it's often hard to prosecute because the victim voluntarily gave access to their money. They signed documents. They made joint accounts. They trusted their partner. That trust is exactly what makes it fraud when it's betrayed. After the Lena Chen case, I started specializing in romantic fraud cases. I take cases where people have been scammed by partners or people they were dating. I've handled a dozen similar cases since Lena's. Not all as dramatic, not all involving millions of dollars, but each one important to the victim. There was the woman whose fiancé convinced her to take out loans in her name for his business, then disappeared with the money. The man whose girlfriend emptied their joint savings account and fled to another state. The elderly widower whose new girlfriend he met online convinced him to send her his entire retirement savings before he realized she wasn't real. Each case had unique details, but the pattern was always the same: trust, betrayal, theft, devastation. And each time, I fought to get justice. I've built a reputation now. People call me the fraud fighter. I don't particularly like the nickname, but I understand it. I'm known for taking on con artists and winning. I still take cases on contingency for clients who can't afford to pay up front. It's not the most profitable business model, but it's the right thing to do. Some of my colleagues think I'm crazy. You're leaving money on the table, they tell me. You should only take cases from clients who can pay. But I think about Lena walking into my office that first day. Desperate. Broke. Convinced she'd lost everything forever. If I'd turned her away because she couldn't pay a retainer, Victor would have kept her money. He'd still be out there scamming other women. Justice wouldn't have been served. That's worth more than maximizing my billable hours. Last month, I got an invitation in the mail. It was for a charity fundraiser, the Survivors Network. The organization Lena and the other women had founded was hosting their first major event. The goal was to raise money for a legal fund, money to help fraud victims who can't afford attorneys, money to give other people the chance Lena had. The event was beautiful. Over 200 people attended. Fraud survivors, supporters, legal professionals, people who believed in the cause. Lena gave a speech. She told her story, the lottery win, the betrayal, the fight for justice, the recovery. I'm one of the lucky ones, she said. I found an attorney who believed in me, who fought for me, who got my money back. But so many victims never get that chance. They suffer in silence. They blame themselves. They never recover. She looked out at the audience. That's why we're here tonight. To raise money so other victims can fight back, so they can afford legal help, so they can get justice too. The event raised over $100,000. It was a huge success. After her speech, Lena came over to me. Thank you for being here. I wouldn't miss it. You know, sometimes I think about that first day in your office. I was so broken. I thought my life was over. I'd lost everything. And you said, the fight isn't over yet. I remember. Those words changed everything for me. They gave me hope when I had none. They reminded me I wasn't helpless. She smiled. I want other people to hear those words. I want other victims to know the fight isn't over, that there's hope, that justice is possible. You're doing that. This organization, the legal fund, the support groups, you're helping so many people. We're helping them together. You showed me the way. I thought about Victor in prison. I thought about Lena rebuilding her life. I thought about the other women we'd helped and would continue to help. This is why I became a lawyer. Not to get rich, not to win high-profile cases, but to fight for people who need someone in their corner, to stand up to bullies and predators and con artists, to give people like Lena a fighting chance. 3 years have passed since Lena first walked into my office. She's doing well. She still works as a nurse. She still lives modestly, despite having over $2 million invested conservatively. She's dating someone new, a teacher. He has his own money, his own career, his own life. They split bills equally. They maintain separate finances. They're building a healthy relationship based on mutual respect, not financial dependence. I've learned a lot, Lena told me over coffee a few weeks ago, about trust, about boundaries, about protecting myself. Are you happy? Yes, really happy. Not because of the money, because I fought back, because I stood up for myself, because I didn't let Victor destroy me. She paused. And because you taught me that victims can become survivors, that we don't have to accept injustice, that we can fight. That's the real victory. Not the $2.4 million, not the criminal conviction, not even shutting down Victor's con artist career. The real victory is watching Lena transform from a broken, defeated victim into a strong, confident survivor who helps other people find their own strength. That's justice. That's what makes this work worthwhile. Victor is still in prison. He'll be there for at least 5 more years. Sometimes I wonder if he's learned anything, if he feels remorse, if he understands the harm he caused. Probably not. Con artists rarely do. But it doesn't matter. He can't hurt anyone else now, and the women he did hurt have found healing and purpose. I still practice law. I still take fraud cases. I still fight for people who've been scammed by people they loved. And every time I win, I think of Lena. Of that first day when she walked into my office convinced she'd lost everything. Of how we fought together and won. Of how justice, sometimes, actually prevails. If you're reading this and you see yourself in Lena's story, please know this. You are not stupid. You are not gullible. You are not to blame. Con artists are professionals. They're skilled manipulators. They know exactly how to gain trust and exploit it. The fact that they fooled you doesn't say anything bad about you. It says something bad about them. You can fight back. You can get justice. It's not too late. Find an attorney who specializes in fraud cases. Many will take cases on contingency if you can't afford to pay up front. Document everything you can. Text messages, emails, bank records. Every piece of evidence matters. Report the crime to police. File a civil lawsuit. Don't let embarrassment or shame stop you from seeking justice. And remember, you are not alone. There are organizations that help fraud victims, support groups, legal aid societies. Resources are available. The fight isn't over until you say it is. To my fellow attorneys, take fraud cases seriously. These aren't just civil disputes. They're crimes that destroy lives. Victims need advocates. Sometimes that means taking financial risk by working on contingency. Do it anyway. To everyone listening, be careful with your finances. Maintain separate accounts even in committed relationships. Don't give anyone complete control over your money. Trust, but verify. Always. And if someone you love suddenly comes into money, ask yourself, am I supporting them or exploiting them? Be honest. To Lena, Sandra, Maria, Jennifer, and all the other survivors, thank you for your courage. Thank you for fighting back. Thank you for turning your pain into purpose. You inspire me every day. This is Daniel, signing off. Remember, justice is possible. You just have to fight for it. Thank you for listening to this true story. If you found it valuable, please subscribe to our channel for more real legal cases and important lessons about protecting yourself from fraud. Share this with anyone who might benefit from hearing Lena's story. And remember, the fight isn't over until you say it is. Stay safe out there.